Why does Paul the Apostle use so many sports metaphors? Hi, everybody. My name is Robyn Walsh. I'm a scholar of New Testament and early Christianity and part of Paths in Biblical Studies. This is actually a question that I asked in my senior thesis many, many moons ago. I had noticed reading Paul's letters that he loves a good sports metaphor. He talks about winning the race, obtaining a wreath. He makes all of these references to essentially athletic activity and athletes in general as a metaphor, again, for his spiritual pursuits. And I'm going to read you one example that's one of my favorites. So this is from 1 Corinthians 9:24, and this is the NRSV translation. Do you not know that in a race the runners all compete, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win it. Athletes exercise self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable one. So I do not run aimlessly, nor do I box as though beating the air, but I punish my body and enslave it so that after proclaiming to others, I myself should not be disqualified. I mean, that's just fantastic if you're a sports fan like I am. So why does he use this metaphor? Okay, two things to keep in mind. One is that there's a name for this. We call it the Agon motif, A-G-O-N, or Agon motif. And the Agon motif is really any kind of analogy, metaphor, imagery that people use rhetorically to any kind of athletic activity or other kind of contest or contestation, meaning, some kind of striving. And so athletic imagery fits perfectly with this, and that's why you see it so often throughout Paul. It really gives you that beautiful and vivid illustration of the striving that he is feeling in what he is doing. Also, this idea of victory is really strong here, right? So the idea of an athlete punishes their body and puts themselves through the ringer in order to achieve this perishable wreath. We are putting ourselves through the ringer in order to get this imperishable one, something even better. But the reason I think that the physical imagery works so well here is because of when he references this idea of controlling the body. And what we would say in terms of philosophical terminology is self-mastery and self-control. That's huge for Paul, as I'm sure many of you know. He's often talking about controlling the passions, controlling the physical self, trying not to give into temptations. And that can include things like, for example, I mean, we're looking at 1 Corinthians 6, right? He talks about how you shouldn't worry about it. You should have this perfect equilibrium within your body in terms of giving into the passions. And then he recommends that if you can't be like me, if you can't control yourself and live this kind of self-controlled life, then yeah, get married, don't deny each other, have an outlet. But you should really be at all times trying to achieve this idea of self-mastery. And this is an idea that is very, very stark within Stoicism, especially in the 1st century CE. So Paul is fitting right in. Was Paul going to, I don't know, the amphitheater? Was he going to the races to take them in? Was he watching boxing matches? I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that I'd be sitting with him and the Pope in the stands at an athletic competition, although I don't see myself going to a White Sox game. No offense to the White Sox. I'm a Red Sox fan. My husband's a Cubs fan, so there you go. Now you know a little something about me. But anyway, I like that he uses this imagery. And to kind of sum things up, I also want to point out that this imagery was noted by ancient readers. One of my favorite objects from early Christianity is housed at the Cleveland Museum, and we'll put a picture here. It's of Paul as an athlete. He's got his wreath, he's pretty jacked. And it's on a commemorative spoon. So almost like a little souvenir that somebody must have picked up at perhaps a holy site of some kind. But someday I hope to go to Cleveland and to check this out because I have loved it for a very long time. And it was on the cover of my aforementioned thesis, again, many, many years ago. If you find this kind of terminology or investigation into the rhetoric of the New Testament interesting, please head over to bartehrman.com/BSA Learning. BSA stands for Biblical Studies Academy. I actually just gave my monthly talk. This month it was on Roman medicine and the New Testament. And we do these kinds of things all the time. I think whether or not you are an amateur historian or somebody who's deeply invested in the study of the Bible, you will find something there that will interest you, whether it's one of our courses, our chats, or our forums for these kinds of conversations. So again, that's bartehrman.com/BSA learning.